Alright, so now we have entered phase 2. How to make a tractor that was never designed to go in the water, go in the water. Online, I can find what they claim the tractor weighs from the factory. I believe it's somewhere around 2,400 pounds, somewhere in there. What that doesn't tell me, though, is the weight more in the front, or is it more in the back? My guess is it's going to be roughly the same. In fact, I'm actually kind of betting that the rear on this may actually be heavier than the front. The engine in these is not anything to go crazy about. It's a roughly 25 horsepower 4-cylinder. Not too crazy heavy. And the rear in this thing has, it's got the bigger wheels, the differential transmission. There's a good chance the rear may actually weigh more than the front, which is kind of backwards in most cases. To determine this, I've bought a inline crane scale. It's rated for 2,000 pounds, so I can't pick the entire tractor up, but I can pick up one end at a time. But ultimately, in order to design something that's amphibious or can float or swim, whatever the case may be, I need to know how much water I need to displace to create enough buoyancy for this thing to float. These are the things I'm going to be calculating. The front without the tires, because they'll be coming off to make the tanks, and I'll have to weigh those later to get all the correct calculations as far as what everything weighs. The front with gas in it, as it sits right now, it has a completely empty tank of gas. I siphoned it all out. Whatever gas it's using to run right now is whatever's left in the line and the carburetor bowl. And then I have in the very early footage of this tractor, I showed off the frame I was going to be using. It was an old postal digger. I ended up putting that back together to use it for its intended purpose. I believe that thing as it sits right now, just a plain old postal digger, I think is close in weight to what I'm going to end up building off the back with the prop and rudder and all that fancy schmancy stuff. So I'm going to use that, and the reason that I have to do that is because when that's going off the back, that will lighten the load on the front. And that all goes into the math of figuring out what I need to build up front here. It's more or less the same thing with the back. The rear without the tires. The rear, when gas is in the fuel tank, not that that's really going to make or break anything. It's going to inevitably happen that I can figure out what that is, so why not do it? And then the rear with the attachment, the sample attachment weight, that I'm going to be using to represent what I ultimately intend on building. I'm going to get to lifting here. Hopefully I don't bring the house down. And I will document and show you the numbers that I come up with as I get them. So, with the front off the ground, is this one just barely touching the grass? We have, that's funny, it was showing 750 a second ago, 747 pounds. Surprisingly less than what I thought it was going to be. I figured we'd at least hit the 1,000 mark, but yeah, 747 pounds all said and done. That's what the front weighs. Sit her on the jack stands here. I'll take the front wheels off, and we'll see what we get then. Alright, so there it is, hanging by nothing more than that strap, and we have 658 That's almost a 100-pound difference. So I just got done weighing the rear of the tractor with the tires on. No gas in the tank still. And I'm getting ready to weigh it without the rear tires. But it would appear my theory was correct. The rear of these tractors, it's heavier. The rear of this thing with the tires, no gas in the tank, is 1,324 pounds versus 746 pounds in the front with no gas in it. So the next thing to weigh is going to be the rear just without the tires. Alright, so here we are without the tires. You can see if I just kind of shake her here, she's not sitting on the stands. She's hanging from the ceiling. So, without those wheels on, that weight drops to a clean 1,020 pounds, which I would believe that's a clean, what is that, a 300-pound difference? Let's see, with the rear tires on it, yeah, 1,324 versus 1,020, that's a clean 300-pound difference. So, which I would believe, these rears are heavy. But even without the rear wheels on it, without the rear wheels, the front is still, the front with its wheels is still lighter than just the back without its wheels. So here's what I've got set up as the example. This is the post hole digger. This is the same frame you saw way back. But I had to put it back together because I actually had to use it as a post hole digger for a small job. But anyway, here it is. So I'm going to just get this last calculation, and then I've got some stuff to weigh for the front. And at that point, I should have just about everything I need to calculate how much water I need to displace. Alright, so it's been an entire week now that these tanks have been sitting here upside down with as much of the valve and gauge assembly as I can get off of them. They've each got 3 large openings. I couldn't get the actual turn valves out because of the way those guards are on there. So I do have, there's 3 other holes that are open on each of the tanks. So they're still draining out. If I watch them, you'll still see a little puff of vapor come out every now and then, and that's with the entire week of sitting here airing out. So these guys safely have at least another week to go before I'm going to try and do anything with them. Update though on the big tank. So this stake here, this metal stake, I've dipped a stick in, there's a filler neck end over here. When I first got this thing, I took a stick, dipped it in there, tried to light the end of it on fire to see how flammable we were, and it didn't do anything. This morning, I took this stake and I took off the, there was a vent cap here. I had to bust off the holder just to get this line in here. But anyway, I dipped the stake in here on this end, tried to light it, nothing happened. So, as far as I was concerned, this tank wasn't, you know, it was basically just all rainwater and condensation that I'm seeing in the bottom. So I've started to vacuum out what's in the tank. You can see it there, it's a nice murky shade of what looks like just old rusty water. However, if given a stir, and it didn't do it at first. I actually kind of had to hold the lighter to it for a while. But if we take our lighter here, you can kind of see it doesn't, you know, it acts like it's water. Of course the wind here is messing. Oh, it almost went that time. There it goes. You can see that fuel in there, or that water in there, still has a little bit of it's not combustible, but it's definitely still flammable. So that means everything that's in there is going to have to get vacuumed out, and disposed of properly. So there's going to definitely need to be some more work done. You can see it's not giving up because it's fuel. But it had, what's important here is it had all the characteristics of just being water. And that's after dipping it twice. So I could have just vacuumed this out and not questioned it off of the first 2 tests I did, but I'm glad I did the third test, which was just all the stuff the vacuum's pulling out. So we've got a ways to go here, and obviously safety is number one. I have no plans on burning off what's in there. It's a thought, as low flammability as it is, it's a thought maybe I could open up all the tops and just let it burn off. The problem is the heat, though, from something like that will probably warp the tank. So I can't do that. Alright, so here's the current setup. We've got both tractors on the scene, each with their own job. This tank, in the last clip you saw, everything has been vacuumed out that came with the tank, which was a nice mixture of rainwater, condensation, and old gasoline. I pulled every bit of at least 100 plus gallons out. I've got 2 55-gallon drums. One of them's all the way filled up, and the other one's it's almost all the way filled up. So a good 105, 110 gallons worth of old, nasty gasoline that was still having some flammable properties. So what's going on now is I've got this chained up to the 3-point on this tractor. Basically, all that's left, all the liquid's out of it. It's pretty dry in there. I just checked it a second ago with the flashlight. All the liquid's out. So on this end, if you feel down with a stick through the filler neck here, there's at least a good inch, maybe, hopefully not more than that. It's about an inch at least of rusty sediment on the bottom, and on this end it's actually pretty clean. There wasn't that much sediment down here. Now I don't know if that's because when this thing used to work, the pump has a tendency to pull things this way. I have no idea why most of the sediment is at this end, but that's the deal. So anyway, we've got the hose hooked up. The vacuum is hooked up on the back of this tractor, and the reason I have it on this platform is so when I suck out the next batch of stuff that comes out of here, I can raise it up on this platform and dump it into one of the 55-gallon drums, and I'll have a company come, and you can pay a service to come, and they'll pick up stuff like that you don't want to dump. So this next batch of stuff coming out is going to be kind of rusty, kind of gasoline-y, may or may not still be flammable. Don't know yet. So the plan is I'm going to lift it up on this end, rinse with the hose, let everything run downhill into this corner, which has the vent cap that I busted out this whole thing so I can get the entire vacuum hose down that side. So after quite a bit of work, this is where we are at. So let me shine my flashlight in here so you guys can see. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see this, but the inside is pretty much clean. You can see that little bit of rust right there on the side. It's kind of just dried. It's like where a water line was at one point. So I'm not too worried about that. The majority of sediment on the bottom has been sucked out, and as you can see here in the bottom of this vacuum, that's what was in the bottom, basically just rusty nastiness. So basically all that stuff is out. I'm gonna give it one more rinse out from the top here back, just to get any last little particles out, and let it air dry for at least a couple of days. And then what I'll do is I'll fill it back up with water. I'll put like 20 or 30 gallons in it, and then we'll start cutting on it. Alright, so here's the end result. Everything out of the top has been cut out. So we're looking more and more like a perfectly round drum all the time. I've got my flashlight here. I'm going to stick the camera in. I'm not sure how well you can or can't see inside the tank here, but it goes all the way through. There's no baffles, which I was pretty certain of in the beginning. It was a concern I had that there might be some baffles in there, but once I got rinsing it out especially, I would take the hose and shoot the water like from this, where that vent tube was, all the way across, and I could look in this end. This second one from the end here was the filler cap, and I could see the water coming across, so that's the good news. There was no baffles to deal with. So now at this point, I want to get the bottom carriage here off. There's actually not a whole lot of weld holding it on. There's this little corner up here that's holding it, which I might cut this short. I haven't totally decided yet. And that's pretty much the same deal all the way around. It's kind of got like what looks like maybe a piece of flat bar or something welded there. And then there's just kind of this weld here along the tops. I do want to save this though. This whole assembly that's underneath of the tank, I want to save that. That's going to actually be used for the whole process of getting this thing centered and mounted and basically working on it. I'll get into more detail about that later, but the main thing is that the bottom piece I'm saving. We're going to get this round tank off. Once we get the actual tank off, I've done all my measurements that I need to do. I feel pretty confident at this point that I can pretty much just cut this thing right dead in the middle.